A knife sheath, a Q-tip in a trash bag, a white car parked outside a Pennsylvania home. None of those three things looks like evidence of anything on its own. Put together, in the right order, they ended a 6-week manhunt and led investigators to a 28-year-old criminology PhD student living 10 miles from a crime scene in a town he had no obvious reason to be in. This is part 2. Last time we opened the newly released investigation documents. This time we go further back and further forward, how Bryan Kohberger was actually identified, what the timeline of November 13th, 2022 looked like hour by hour, who the 4 people taken that night actually were, and where the legal case stands today, now that Kohberger is asking a court to undo the plea that closed it. When investigators arrived at 1122 King Road in the hours after the murders, they found a crime scene with almost no obvious forensic trail. No fingerprints matched to anyone in law enforcement systems. No footwear impressions led anywhere useful. What they did find beside one of the victims was a tan leather knife sheath. On the sheath's snap button, investigators recovered a small amount of male DNA. That sample was run through CODIS, the FBI's national database of DNA profiles collected from people who have been arrested or convicted of crimes. It came back with no match. Whoever left that DNA had never been fingerprinted into that system. With a dead end in front of them, Moscow police turned to a newer and more controversial technique: investigative genetic genealogy. The unknown profile was sent to Othram, a forensic genealogy lab, and uploaded into databases where users have consented to law enforcement comparison searches. According to reporting on the investigation, within 48 hours of the DNA sample submission, experts had identified that the DNA belonged to a man whose family lineage traced back several generations in the United States, with roots in Pennsylvania and a distinct Italian heritage. From there, the investigation narrowed with a speed that surprised even people familiar with the technique. Only 2 families nationwide matched that specific genetic profile. From those 2 families, there was only one person who could plausibly have been in Moscow, Idaho, on the night of the murders. And of that group, only one person owned a white Hyundai Elantra. That detail mattered, because investigators already had a car to look for. Separately from the genealogy work, surveillance footage near the King Road house had captured a vehicle in the area around the time of the murders. An FBI analyst reviewing the footage identified it as a white Hyundai Elantra, model years 2011 through 2013. For weeks, this was the single most public piece of evidence in the case. Police repeatedly asked the public for tips about white Elantras in the area. Owners of similar cars across the region found themselves under suspicion, some publicly, based on nothing more than the color and shape of their vehicle. According to legal reporting on the case, this public appeal was, in part, a form of cover. A source familiar with the investigation told reporters that Kohberger had not stood out from the general pool of Elantra owners until the genetic genealogy results directed investigators specifically toward him. Genealogists look for partial DNA matches, hoping to find relatives within the third cousin range, and then build an extensive family tree using public records to create a short list of people who could plausibly be the suspect. The fact that Kohberger lived roughly 10 miles from the crime scene helped him stand out within that list. So did the fact that he owned a white Elantra. On November 29, 2022, according to court filings, a 2015 white Elantra, registered to Kohberger, was located in Pullman, Washington, where he lived. Investigators also obtained his cell phone records. Those records showed that in the months before the murders, his phone had connected to cell towers that provide coverage to the area of 1122 King Road on at least 12 separate occasions. Other reporting places that number closer to 23 separate instances, mostly after dark, with his final documented visit to the area occurring 6 days before the murders. But a genetic genealogy match, even a strong one, is not proof by itself. Investigators needed Kohberger's actual DNA collected directly to compare against the sample from the sheath. Kohberger had gone home to Pennsylvania for the holidays, staying with his parents at their house in Albrightsville, in the Poconos region. On December 27, 2022, Pennsylvania state agents, working with Idaho investigators, collected the trash from the Kohberger family home. According to court documents, that evidence was sent to the Idaho State Lab for testing. Inside that trash investigators recovered a discarded Q-tip. DNA extracted from it was compared against the profile from the knife sheath. According to prosecutors' later court filing, the result was not a direct match. A Q-tip from a trash can wouldn't be. It was something more specific. The DNA on the Q-tip showed a high probability of being related to the DNA on the sheath, in the way a father's DNA relates to a son's. Investigators had found Kohberger's father's DNA in his parents' garbage, and it matched the genetic profile of whoever had left DNA on the murder weapon's sheath. When prosecutors later detailed the statistical strength of the direct comparison to Kohberger himself, they stated in a June 2023 court filing that the DNA on the sheath was at least 5.37 octillion times more likely to belong to Kohberger than to an unrelated member of the public. 3 days after the trash poll confirmed the family connection, on December 30, 2022, Kohberger was arrested at that same Pennsylvania home. It is worth noting, in the interest of accuracy, that Kohberger's defense team challenged nearly every piece of this account. In a June 2023 filing, his attorneys argued that investigators had looked at various other possible suspects, some of whom had their DNA surreptitiously collected from discarded items like cigarettes, and that it remained unclear what police had first relied on to focus on Kohberger at all. DNA from 3 other unidentified males was also found at the crime scene, including on a glove recovered outside the house. Prosecutors have never publicly resolved what that additional DNA represents. It was not addressed in the plea agreement, and it does not appear in the sentencing record as an unresolved question, investigators answered. At his sentencing hearing in July 2025, after the guilty plea had been entered, prosecutor Bill Thompson laid out the timeline of November 13, 2022, in more detail than had ever been made public before. His account was built from phone data and surveillance footage. On the evening of November 12th, Kaylee Goncalves and Madison Mogen went to a sports bar near campus. Separately, Xana Kernodle and her boyfriend Ethan Chapin attended a party at Chapin's fraternity. By around 2 a.m. on November 13th, all 4 had returned to the house on King Road. According to the prosecutor's account, Kohberger drove his Hyundai Elantra toward Moscow that night. At a certain point, he turned off his cell phone. It would remain off for close to 2 hours, a gap in the data that investigators say aligns with the window of the murders. Prosecutors allege Kohberger stalked the residence before entering, and that he entered through a sliding door on the back of the house that led into the kitchen, sometime around 3 a.m. From there, prosecutors say he went to the 3rd floor of the residence and killed Mogen first, leaving the knife sheath beside her body. According to previously released autopsy information, the attacks were not uniform. Kaylee Goncalves' injuries were described by a source as more severe than those of the other victims, even though she and Mogen, best friends since childhood, were sleeping in the same bed at the time of the attack. Steve Goncalves, Kaylee's father, has said publicly that the manner of the attack on his daughter differed in some way from what happened to Mogen, though he has declined to elaborate on exactly how. 2 roommates, Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funke, were home elsewhere in the house and were not physically harmed. Unsealed court filings later revealed the panicked text messages the 2 exchanged with each other in the hours after the attack, before anyone outside the house understood what had happened. Those messages are part of the sealed investigative record and are not reproduced in detail here out of respect for what they represent. 2 young women trying, in real time, to understand whether they were safe. The bodies were discovered later that morning, after a 911 call was placed from inside the house. Every account of this case eventually turns into an account of forensic detail, legal argument, and investigative technique. It is worth stopping, deliberately, to say who the 4 people at the center of it actually were, outside of what happened to them. Madison Mogen, known to her friends as Maddie, was 21 years old, from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. She was studying marketing. She and Kaylee Goncalves had been close since childhood, a friendship that predated college by more than a decade. People who knew her described someone who brought energy into a room and held a wide circle of friends together. Kaylee Goncalves, also 21, was from Rathdrum, Idaho. She was a senior, majoring in general studies, and a member of the Alpha Phi sorority. She was set to graduate that December, and had already made plans to move to Austin, Texas for a job at a marketing firm. She and Mogen had grown up together and were, by every account given by the people who knew them, something closer to sisters than friends. Xana Kernodle was 20 years old, from Avondale, Arizona, and Post Falls, Idaho, where she attended high school. She was studying marketing as well. On her high school graduation cap she had written, "For the lives that I will change." She was in a relationship with Ethan Chapin, and the two were together in the house the night they were killed. Ethan Chapin was 20 years old, from Conway, Washington. He was a triplet, one of 3 siblings who had all enrolled at the University of Idaho together the previous fall. He was studying sports management and was a member of the Sigma Chi fraternity. He is survived by his parents and his siblings, Maisie and Hunter. These 4 people were, in the most literal sense, in the wrong house on the wrong night, according to every piece of evidence investigators have made public. None of them has ever been shown to have any connection to Kohberger. Investigators have said this directly and repeatedly. There is no evidence he knew any of them, followed any of them online, or had any documented contact with any of them before the night they died. Kohberger's trial was scheduled for August 2025. It never happened. In July of that year, he accepted a plea agreement, admitting guilt to all 4 murder counts and the burglary charge, in exchange for prosecutors taking the death penalty off the table. At the sentencing hearing on July 23, 2025, the court heard directly from the families for the first time. Kaylee's parents, Steve and Christy Goncalves, spoke. Maddie's father, Ben Mogen, her mother, Karen Laramie, and her stepfather, Scott Laramie, all gave statements. Xana's father, Jeff Kernodle, and her sister, Jasmine Kernodle, spoke as well. Ethan Chapin's family did not attend the hearing. The 2 surviving roommates, Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funke, also addressed the court. When Kohberger was given the opportunity to speak, in front of every one of these people, he said nothing. The sentence handed down was 4 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole, plus an additional 10 years for the burglary charge. Because he had accepted a plea deal, there was no trial. No cross-examination of the DNA evidence, no defense argument tested in front of a jury, no public accounting under oath of a motive. That absence of a trial is in part why the documents released after sentencing mattered so much to the public record. They were, for many people, the closest thing to a trial this case was ever going to get. That record is no longer settled. On July 27, 2026, Kohberger filed a petition asking the court to reopen his case and allow him to withdraw his guilty plea entirely. In the filing, he claims his own defense attorneys persuaded him to falsely confess. He alleges they failed to disclose or properly review evidence that could have supported his innocence, including potentially the unresolved DNA from the 3 other unidentified males found at the crime scene. He states he was given what the petition describes as a gross misrepresentation of what a life sentence would actually mean for him compared to the death penalty. When Kohberger entered his plea in 2025, he formally waived his right to appeal. Idaho law nonetheless allows a defendant to seek withdrawal of a guilty plea to correct what the law defines as a manifest injustice. Legal analysts following the case have noted that this is a difficult standard to meet. Kohberger will need to present credible, solid evidence to support his new claims, and he will need to explain convincingly why he told the court under oath in 2025 that he was entering his plea freely, voluntarily, and with full understanding of what he was giving up. As of this recording, that petition is pending. The court has not ruled. A knife sheath with no name attached to it. A family tree built from a distant cousin's decision to upload their own DNA to a genealogy website. A trash pull outside a house in Pennsylvania. A white car that thousands of people across the region were wrongly suspected of driving. This is how Bryan Kohberger's name entered a case that for 6 weeks had none. What that trail has never produced at any point is a reason. Not in the probable cause affidavit, not in the plea agreement, not in the sentencing hearing when Kohberger stood in front of the people who loved Madison Mogen, Kaylee Goncalves, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin, and said nothing at all. The 4 of them were, on paper, unremarkable in the way most college students are unremarkable. Finishing degrees, planning for jobs, sharing an apartment with people they loved, out at a bar or a party on an ordinary Saturday night. What made them extraordinary is only the fact that they are gone, and that the person responsible has never explained why. With Kohberger's petition to withdraw his plea now before the court, The investigative record we've spent 2 videos walking through, the genealogy trail, the timeline, the documents, the interview transcripts, may soon be tested again in ways it never was the first time. If the petition is denied, this record stands as the final word. If it's granted, all of it goes back into a courtroom, this time in front of a jury. Either way, the 4 people this case is actually about deserve to be remembered as more than a DNA profile, a timeline, or a legal filing. They were 4 people who went to a party, went to a bar, and went home. That should have been the whole story. It wasn't. Subscribe to Behind the Case File for more true crime investigations covered with accuracy and respect.